Hong Kongers headed for public swimming pools, sports facilities, and even Ocean Park today after they were closed for weeks because of the city's third wave of infections.
Bars, clubs, and karaoke venues are also up and running again, although they have to close by midnight. Caleb Leung has details.
It's less than crowded this afternoon at Lan Kwai Fong, even though bar hoppers can finally return after at least a 2-month hiatus. A similar situation for pubs along Lockhart Road in Wan Chai. This bar manager is expecting business to only be around 10 to 20% of what one would see in normal times. Catering sector lawmaker Tommy Chung said demanding premises close at 12 a.m. is not helping out, as young adults don't go out clubbing until late at night.
20 years ago, when I have curfew on my daughter, 20 years ago, and I said you have to be home at 12 o'clock. She complained that they just get started at 12. How can you make me come home at 12?
The sector is also hoping the government can allow bars to seat 4 patrons per table instead of 2. As for those who prefer a healthier lifestyle, it is a day to rejoice at swimming pools, as well as fee-charging facilities for team games like basketball courts also reopened. Pools can only operate at half their capacity, like this pool in Lai Chi Kok Park. All swimmers are required to wear masks at all times while on pool deck. But there are exemptions, such as when they are swimming, having a shower, or walking from the changing room to the pool or vice versa. As for team game venues, there should be no more than 4 people per game. Each group should also observe a distance of 1.5 meters. Ocean Park also reopened. Attendance levels will be kept at around 20 to 30% of the park's normal capacity. All visitors are required to book online prior to their visit, while smoking is prohibited inside the park. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
One of the 14 judges who sits on Hong Kong's highest court has resigned because of concerns about the national security law. James Spiegelman, the former Chief Justice of New South Wales, was a non-permanent judge of the Court of Final Appeal, and his term was due to end in 2022. The Chief Executive's office confirmed the resignation of Spiegelman, but stated he did not give a reason. Speaking to Australian media, Spiegelman said he resigned for reasons related to the content of the national security legislation, but did not elaborate further. He is the first senior judge to resign and publicly criticize the law. His departure comes amid alarm in local and international legal circles at Beijing's imposition of the law in Hong Kong. Foreign judges have long been considered a symbol of Hong Kong's judicial independence.
I've read reports from Australia news channel that he resigned because of the national security law. Now, if that is true, it shows that the legal community around the world is losing confidence and faith in the Hong Kong rule of law as a result of the national security law, and is very sad, but it's inevitable consequence, I feel, that this may not be the first resignation you see. There may be more coming, but I think for all those who care about the rule of law in Hong Kong, this is indeed a very sad day.
China began combat drills near the Taiwan Strait today, the same day as senior U.S. official began high-level meetings in Taipei. The Ministry of Defense said the secretive military drills were to safeguard national sovereignty and insisted the maneuvers are necessary. Taiwan's defense ministry says multiple Chinese Air Force jets crossed the midline of the Taiwan Strait and also into Taiwan's southwestern air defense identification zone. Taiwan scrambled fighters to monitor their activities. Beijing has watched with growing alarm the ever closer relationship between Taipei and Washington and has stepped up military exercises near the island. U.S. Undersecretary for Economic Affairs Keith Krach was due to meet President Tsai Ing-wen today and will attend a memorial service tomorrow for late President Lee Teng-hui.
U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden hammered President Donald Trump over his handling of COVID-19, calling Trump's downplaying of the pandemic criminal.
Trump, meanwhile, headed back to the battleground state of Wisconsin, where he told supporters his response to the pandemic has saved millions of lives. During a CNN town hall-style event, Biden went after Trump made another claim that a vaccine for COVID-19 may be only weeks away. Most health experts say a vaccine will not be available until well into next year. Biden said Trump's own admission that he deliberately downplayed how deadly the disease is shows that Americans cannot trust him.
He knew it and did nothing. It's close to criminal. So the idea that there's going to be a vaccine and everything's going to be fine tomorrow is just not rational, not reasonable.
The broadcast gave viewers a chance to see Biden answer live questions from people whose votes he hopes to win in November.
I'm barely making ends meet. Do you have any plans to stand up for us healthcare workers?
Absolutely. And the idea you're not making a minimum of $15 an hour is just wrong. Wrong. No one should have to work 2 jobs to be able to get out of poverty. You're busting your neck, and what you're doing is you're saving people's lives.
Trump, meanwhile, made his 5th visit this year to the pivotal state of Wisconsin, where he talked up his administration's response to the coronavirus.
The virus came in, we closed it down, we saved millions and millions of lives. It should have been stopped at China. They stopped it for their country.
One more disgruntled employee who's left the White House.
Vice President Mike Pence is pushing back against a former aide on his coronavirus task force. Olivia Troy, a Republican, has come out against Trump, joining several former Trump administration officials, urging voters to deny him a second term. She says Trump was more concerned about his re-election chances than the virus, adding that if he had taken the virus seriously, he would have saved lives. Welcome back to TVB News. Pro-establishment lawmaker Chan Ho-yan has officially lost her seat in LegCo.
It comes after she failed in her legal challenge against a court decision that ruled her unduly elected. Sharon Tang has more.
陳海欣喺上述嘅選舉中當選。
2 years ago, Chan Ho-yan claimed victory in the Kowloon West constituency by-election. The seat initially secured by Lau Siu-lai in 2016 was vacated after Lau was ousted from LegCo for improper oath-taking. Lau then ran in the subsequent by-election, but the returning officer disqualified her nomination, saying she did not truly uphold the Basic Law. She then filed an election petition over the case. In May, the court ruled in favor of Lau and deemed Chan unduly elected, leading her to take the case to the city's top court. The representing lawyer for the returning officer said today that upholding the Basic Law is a must for candidates running in elections. But the court decided Lau wasn't given a chance to explain her position, adding this case focuses on the fairness of the nomination procedures. The court also rejected Chan's application for her legal bid. Speaking outside the courthouse, Lau said she welcomed the decision but stressed it's not strong enough.
It's a pity that the ruling of this case is not enough to protect our rights to be elected. And I hope that this case will inspire the Hong Kong people to fight for our own rights. And I hope that there will be a by-election on the Kowloon West district.
This afternoon, the LegCo Secretariat covered up Chan's nameplate in LegCo. The former lawmaker said she's a bit disappointed with the ruling, but stressed she did everything she could.
I just think that I'm a very passive role. I can't do anything to change the result right now. because all the responsibility is about the procedure before the election. I'm only a person to join this by election.
In future, the former political assistant to ex-health secretary said she'll focus on helping out with efforts to stop the COVID-19 pandemic. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Authorities have revealed more details on providing healthcare services to Hong Kong residents stuck on the mainland because of travel restrictions caused by the pandemic. Kena Chu reports.
A friend or a foe? Border control measures during the COVID-19 pandemic may have facilitated disease containment efforts, but has hampered residents stranded on the other side of the border from accessing essential health care services. To assist some 28,000 Hong Kong residents living on the mainland, authorities revealed not only plans to commission the University of Hong Kong Shenzhen Hospital for services, but also the possibility for medical records to be retrieved via an existing online system. But this has triggered privacy concerns once again.
It's just a one-off arrangement, now because of the pandemic and also quarantine arrangements on both Hong Kong and Guangdong for HA patients to receive follow-up consultations in Hong Kong. That's rather inconvenient.
Noting the voluntary and consensual nature of the digital process, Lo Chung Mao, chief executive of the HKU Shenzhen Hospital, doubled down on the reassurance that personal data and privacy will not be compromised. With a price tag of more than $100 million, the plan is expected to enable affected residents on the mainland to receive medical care to the standard offered in the SAR. But with diverging rules and policies between the two regions, differences must be ironed out before things can be taken forward.
Hong Kong residents have to pay a fee if they consult a doctor in HA. So the arrangements will be similar. That we understand that Shenzhen has rules on medical fees that can be charged. So we are discussing with our counterparts in Shenzhen.
Kena Chu, TVB News.
Two of the four men charged with assaulting a plainclothes police officer during a Mong Kok rally this year were given 3 months in jail, while the other two walked free. The four men, aged between 19 and 25, appeared at the West Kowloon Magistracy. The case dates back to January 1st, when police officers were dispersing a crowd at a protest in Mong Kok. All four denied the charge of assaulting a police officer in the due execution of his duty. Today, the magistrate convicted two of the accused as they played a lookout role, even though they did not participate in the attack. The other two were not convicted because the description of one of them in the victim's witness statement contained discrepancies. The magistrate also said the witness statement identifying the other defendant lacked quality.
Overseas again, European Union lawmakers have called for an international investigation into the suspected poisoning of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny.
This comes after revelations that there were traces of the nerve agent that poisoned him on an empty water bottle in his hotel room that he stayed in before boarding the flight where he fell ill. Leslie Tang has more.
Following a debate, European Union lawmakers passed a resolution calling for an international investigation into the Alexei Navalny poisoning case.
Opponents to Kremlin, victims of Kremlin. And now Alexei Navalny poisoned with military-grade nerve agent Novichok. It is time to stop Putin's impunity.
Russia has also slammed the EU's plan to name sanctions that clamp down on human rights violators in honor of Navalny. Russia called it a blatant attempt to give the new restrictions an anti-Russian character. In the latest twist in the story, the team of the prominent Kremlin critic said the nerve agent Novichok had been detected on an empty water bottle from his hotel room in Siberia. It implies he was earlier poisoned there and not at the airport as previously thought. His team searched his room for evidence after they got word that he fell ill on his flight from Siberia. He was later airlifted for treatment in Berlin, where experts from Germany, France, and Sweden verified lab reports that detected Novichok in his system. Russia has called the accusation groundless, saying it would make no sense for it to poison Navalny and then allow him to be treated in another country. Leslie Tang, TVB News.
Peruvian President Martin Vizcarra will be subject to an impeachment hearing today. The hearing comes as the country struggles to cope with the impact of the pandemic. Vizcarra stands accused of corruption in relation to government grants given to a musician known as Richard Swing. The musician has received nearly $50,000 from Peru's Ministry of Culture since the president assumed office in 2018. Vizcarra insists no illegal activity took place. Analysts believe the president is unlikely to be impeached, but that the motion could tarnish his reputation. This due to the fact that he came to power pledging to promote transparency. That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.